the aspect of isolation and remote work really wreaks havoc on our employees. And because of that, we have to take a new lens into the HR function and think about supporting people from a different angle. 25 to 30% are going to probably stay on this mode of working remotely. A lot of companies have made huge shifts to make that work. At the same time, you really have about almost half of our workforce are feeling non-engaged. So that's pretty staggering to think that behind the Zoom meeting, people sitting in their chairs looking at you are feeling not engaged from the companies they work for. And of that, 14% of that 54 are feeling actively disengaged. We've never seen numbers like this. In our history, in HR, we've been capturing engagement levels, and this has never been seen, this lowest level. Even at times of 9/11 or past recessions, we have not seen engagement levels so low. So what can we do as organizations to help support people differently? And we can help through that conversation from multiple angles. Ideally, what we want is not only to get people more engaged, but to harness the untapped potential of people. So we could go from here or we could go here. And so ideally, we're going to want to create a culture where people are thoroughly in. Organizations have multiple ways that they can approach their employees in terms of helping to get the level of engagement up and building a culture that's cohesive and collaborative. First, looking at work. So the work that we do, this is all, and just to back up a little bit, this whole slide is representing what is the ideal. What is the ideal to make the organization that you work for invincible in terms of attracting people, retaining people, and having people be engaged at a higher level. So ideally, work is meaningful to people, collaborative, there's a work-life balance and people aren't feeling overwhelmed. And this is a really challenging topic right now as we're managing this remote life and sitting behind Zoom meetings all day. I know I struggle with this. And so we have to look at work-life balance differently and really prioritize that for our employees. In terms of management, we want, as a manager, we want to make sure our employees have clearly defined goals that they participated in defining, that we're creating an environment where we're coaching our employees, not just managing, but coaching them, and creating ongoing feedback, skill development, and then aligning people to strategy is really key. To keep that collaboration and that cohesiveness, you need people to really see the end game of what is our strategy and how do I feel connected. In terms of this third line here, produce is really referring to culture. What does that culture need to look like? Ideally, flexible work environment, recognizing employees, and remote work collaboration, inclusive culture. So let me just do that, talk a little bit about inclusive culture. Diversity, equity, inclusion, a subject that is so key and front of mind for many organizations, for many people. And so I would argue if you don't have a diversity, equity, and inclusion program, and that's not a priority, you might want to think about how you can shift to make it a priority and what that might look like. Grow, really looking at growing employees. Employees need to feel honored and have opportunity for development and learning and being mentored, and some flexibility in the positions that they might have within your organization. Leadership, we want people to feel like leadership really has presented a vision that everybody can get behind, feel like there's a purpose within their organization, investment in their people, and is that leaders are trusted, that the employees feel trust in the leadership team, and they're forward thinking. And then this last line refers to you could just summarize this as this is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that you have to have those basic components of that hierarchy covered, such as feeling safe, getting financial needs met at the basic level, feeling the physical well-being and happiness and emotional support. So this slide really kind of captures the ideal, and it's very hard to get all of this, and I wouldn't, put that out there that you have to get all of this, but really to try to strive to embracing as much as what's on this slide as possible.
A lot of what you mentioned, and I know we've run into this with our clients, it represents a big change. It represents a big change for leadership. If you have a second, can you talk through how people can begin to embrace this as an organization and as leaders, and how you've helped that process unfold?
How do you really shift to embrace more of these components? You want to think about the programs you have within your organization around learning and development. You want to think about the systems you're using to support capturing opportunities for people. Systems, I think, are key in this day and age to, one, visually support where you're trying to go. So ensuring that, for example, with career development and learning and development, that there's identified next steps for employees and you're working towards that and that's being captured. Maybe your company is paying for a certain amount of support around education and training. That's one example. I would say clear goals right around management, that second level tier. You want to really, this is around performance management, right? And what are you doing for performance management? You want to make sure that ongoing feedback is happening between employees and managers and that there is that line of sight. I would recommend BPM has a tool called BPM Link, which really helps support that and facilitate those key elements. So again, systems are key, but you also want to get leadership around this. Leadership is key. Everything starts at the top and you're facilitating a culture through the leadership team on down. So I'm going to talk a little bit about HR outsourcing. We can do both HR outsourcing and augmentation of your HR function. So if your HR function is either has minimal skill level of people in that function or minimal staff or maybe no staff, these are some options in a way that we can support your organization. Our team are all mid to senior level, so we're unique in that. Minimum of 12 years experience across the board. And generalists, so we get in on the tactical to the strategic to help organizations through one consultant that's dedicated to your team, although we can add more if needed. And it's a very hands-on solution where we want to know the leadership team and the employees and really support specifically what makes sense for your organization. So it could be a complete outsource, it could be a partial outsource working with the internal team, or we can help with just interim staffing. So multiple ways that we can support, whether that's hourly basis or project basis. Instead of just an outsource scenario, we can support the organization. And really, I would argue, think about augmentation as you may have an HR function, but maybe it's here and you want to take it here. So you want to take it up a notch so that you can support all those items I talked about in the slide, that's how do we become invincible. And so to do that, you may need additional support to get you there. And that may mean looking at and assessing the function and just identifying what your current team needs to do to focus on getting it to the next level. It could be a compliance focus in terms of project work. It could be maybe your performance management process right now is more annual reviews, which has clearly been defined as not what really is needed, because that's looking back versus being forward thinking and creating a cadence of ongoing conversations. So we can help by looking at that process and implementing tools to help support change there. Compensation, whether that's the entire structure, your compensation needs support and analysis and developing a comp plan, or maybe it's more focused at certain tiers. HR systems, we get into a lot of different systems and optimization, and we're agnostic in terms of systems. There could be a focus on coaching, training, and developing employees or managers or both. M&A due diligence, if you're going through an M&A transition, you want to absolutely make sure that the entities coming together are going to gel well. And to do that, you have to look at the cultures, you have to look at programs, policies, people, and make sure that those entities are going to be able to come together in a way that makes sense. Helping to develop culture is also a key component of how we can help supplement an HR team and get you to the next level. And then, as I mentioned earlier, diversity, equity, and inclusion, so key right now that everybody has a level playing field and is feeling part of the culture and environment that you've created.